It's not the best moment for DNVR Nuggets. Our bar just closed. Just lost Jerami Grant.
It's not a good one indeed. I am live, though. See if anybody starts trickling in here. What's up, everybody? Weird one here. I'm at the DNVR bar. It's fucking closed indefinitely. There's nobody here. Just working late on a Friday. Sad, but I know I need. Hey, man, we all needed a drink. Talk us off the ledge. I'm not here to do that. I'm not going to be honest. I'm on the ledge right there with you because there's not some shit I saw going. Harrison, you ready to hop in here? I see Harrison's joining me. Whenever you're ready, let me know, Harrison. So the Denver Nuggets just they're not having a great week. Draft was interesting. I thought it was pretty good. I got talked into it. Started getting a little bit more positive. Free agency, didn't have high hopes. Had a low bar to clear. Tripping right over that so far. Jerami Grant, $20 million going to $20 million per year for 3 years. That's $60 million going to the Detroit Pistons along with Mason Plumlee. Are you ready, Harrison, to hop in here? Do you want to hop in? All right, Harrison's with me here. What up, Dave?
Oh, what's up, man? I didn't know you were at the bar tonight. It's a good place to be on a night like tonight, though.
Yeah, we're doing planning a little meeting here over some stuff. So it wasn't here to do like a live stream, but thought it'd be a nice little quiet night. Guess that was a dumb assumption. But all right, so here's the situation. I'm setting the table. The Nuggets lose Jerami Grant. He goes to Detroit. Let me give you, Harrison. We haven't really talked a whole lot. Have a shot on my tab. We're closed, guys. The bar's closed. This is Colorado. Everything in Colorado is shut down as it needs to be. Quite frankly, COVID out of control. But everything except for In-N-Out, which is just crushing it right now. I mean, I think the line is now down to 24 hours. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to get into it. Jerami Grant. We thought, Harrison, I thought Jerami Grant was coming back. There's no question he's coming back because he's on a team that has a legitimate chance to win a title. They went to the Western Conference Finals. He had an enormous glow up this season with the Denver Nuggets. I mean, I think a lot of people sort of like really, they were open up. He was in a perfect role, in my opinion, for his skill set. Was it a role-playing role? Yes, but I think he's a role player. Turns down the Denver Nuggets in free agency and goes to the Detroit Pistons, which are having themselves a weird night. Yeah. This was the fear, Harrison. When we talked about all the scenarios, it wasn't, is he going to go to the Lakers? Is he going to go to this team or that team? It was like, no, it's going to be a curveball team. Like the Knicks could come in and throw a wrench in the system and just like, offer him something Denver either can't match or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This sounds like a catastrophe to me. There's no way to sugarcoat this. This to me feels like an absolute catastrophe. Now, can the Nuggets bounce back from this? Eventually, yes, but this was not their plan. I'm sorry. The Denver Nuggets' plan was to keep Jerami Grant, to run it back and then to improve on last season. And I don't see the path out of the situation they're in right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a disaster. It's a disaster. No way to sugarcoat it. Denver traded a first-round pick for Jerami Grant. He was clearly their third best player in the playoffs last year, was just unbelievable, vital to what they were doing. And he was going to be a huge part of the puzzle next season. So this is, it's a disaster. Denver will look to try to replace him. I heard they're really interested in Jerami Green. He does not replace Jerami Grant. I don't even know if he replaces 50% of Jerami Grant.
No. So the thing about Jerami Grant, here's the thing about Jerami Grant, because I've always said this, that I thought he was a little bit overrated, and I thought that I didn't think that he was going to get a big deal. I was wrong on the big deal part. I mean, $20 million is well above. I thought $15 million was like some team might get crazy and offer him $15 million. Jerami Grant can't rebound. He's actually not he's a very good and I think versatile, defender. He can guard a lot of different people. I thought in Denver he was a great fit, so his value to Denver was going to be higher than anybody else. To be honest with you, $20 million would have been tough. That would have put him in a really tight spot as well. Or put Denver in a tight spot. If they would have signed him for $20 million over 3 years, they kind of would have had their hands tied, and I don't think they could have gotten better. So then you're fully committed. So Denver was, in my opinion, when Detroit comes in and makes that offer, Denver became in a lose-lose. Here's the problem, because I don't want to sit here and make excuses for Denver. Denver has to know what they're dealing with when you get into. You can't put yourself into situations where you're in lose-lose. You have to understand what your market is. You have to read the market well. You have to know your players well. They've been so about high-character guys that want to be here. This was a big, in my opinion, what it looks like. And again, I want to put all this and say, there was going to be stuff that comes out. Denver, it's not over. Denver has a chance to rebound from this and maybe make something else happen. But as we sit right now, I can't help but feel like Denver, this is not the game plan they laid out for themselves. And now they're looking at the situation and thinking, how can we fix this? And I personally don't see it. I hope they surprise me. They're better at this than I am, but I don't see where we're going from here.
Yeah.
What's up, Vote?
What's up, fellas? How we doing?
Yeah. From what I was told, Denver went up to the $20 million per year mark. I heard that from people close to the team and people not associated with the team. I heard they did go up to that $20 million mark, but Jerami Grant, he wanted to be a top offensive option. That's what I was told. He was not going to be that in Denver. He was going to be a starter and a 30-plus minute per game player, but he wanted to be a top offensive option who had the ball in his hands more than he would have in Denver. That, from what I'm hearing, is his main motivation to get to Detroit. The money obviously has a lot to do with it as well, but Denver was willing to up their price to $20 million from everything I was told. Also, Detroit all along, I had heard and just I felt that it was Denver's biggest competition. Troy Weaver, the Pistons' new general manager, was in the Oklahoma City front office when Jerami Grant was with the Thunder. Troy Weaver, also from very close to where Jerami Grant grew up in Washington, D.C. So there's a connection there, and that was a real factor also from everything I heard in Grant getting to Detroit. So it was almost like a perfect storm, but Denver definitely woke up this morning, at least I think, with the idea that they thought they were getting Jerami Grant back. And that's what really hurts, because we have heard throughout, obviously, the entire season and throughout the entire offseason that Denver thought they were in the driver's seat. And I don't know. I'm assuming Jerami Grant and his team kept this very close to the vest. It really seemed like the Nuggets were pretty shocked with how the events unfolded tonight.
And I just want to stress that distinction you made that you heard from a source that's outside of Denver. I mean, of course, I think we're all not naive to the way this works when the entire Nuggets beat. TJ McBride, of course, was first, starts putting this stuff out there. Well, sometimes teams cover their tracks, but it sounds like from what you're saying, this really was the case. So it may not have been the money. And I think you're right, Adam, for Denver to, I'm assuming they're blindsided by this. And that's really sort of the L if there is one here.
I see people saying there's a bad connection on this on Periscope. Try it on YouTube. If you go to our YouTube channel, DNVR, and search for it, it's always better. For some reason, Periscope is just rough. For me, it's not skipping, so I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, getting back to this, I don't like that report for a couple reasons. I know, TJ McBride. I'm not saying it's not a true report or whatever. Does it matter why a player blindsides and takes away your plan? You need to know, you have intel. You need to know what your players are wanting. You need to go into it with if you're making an assumption that, we think we know what's going to happen with our guys and this is going to get it done, you open yourself up to something like this that's a little bit of a blindside. So for me, did Jerami Grant want that? Yeah. Did he want that? Sure. Is that crazy? Sure. But now Denver's standing here with a situation they weren't prepared for or they didn't expect was going to happen, and it puts them in a tight spot. So to me, this is a big loss at the moment, and I'm really curious to see what Denver does from here now, and I kind of want to move to that because this is the first day of free agency. There's a lot more. I think two initial things that are probably going to happen. Number one, Michael Porter and Bol. Michael Porter. Let's start with Michael Porter. Immediately steps into a much more important role. Denver can't have Bol be now as things are constructed. You can't just have him come in and be a good player that's sometimes really great and sometimes not, but can't maybe guard or this or that. They need him to step up. It's not if he steps up by the end of the year, they're in good position. They need him right off the bat. And then you start to look at Zeke Naji, who just came in, Bol, who's really just coming in. Those guys almost move up, into a position where maybe Denver really needs to figure it out, or Denver has to pivot and try to find some other player via trade. Aaron Gordon, the player I have my eye on. If you start to look at scenarios that can un-F this for the Denver Nuggets, make this not a completely F situation. The only one I can think of at the moment, or maybe only two, Serge Ibaka, don't think that's happening. Aaron Gordon, which would require a trade, which maybe you can work out. Are there any other scenarios that you see, Harrison, that you think, okay, maybe this would make this not a disaster?
I think it would be a mistake, but I believe a sign and trade for Blake Griffin is a possibility. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if it's likely, but I've been told it could be on the table. So that would be an option. And again, I think that would be a mistake. But now Denver's just got to try to create what Jerami Grant was with like one or two guys. They've got to kind of pull together two guys who play Jerami Grant's positions and obviously don't stack up to anything close to the player he was, but try to sign multiple guys here that can make up or at least try to make up for what they've lost with him.
I mean, in the comments there, you have suggests. I mean, John Collins, Miles Turner trade. I mean, do you circle back to the Kevin Love idea that pops up every offseason? I don't even know how that works, and I don't love it. It's definitely not what Wynn just said in terms of replacing what Grant does, but I mean, you got to – I can certainly understand the perspective of you have to try something here. I mean, you don't want to panic, but you're not in a position to compete right now the way you were just a year ago.
Yeah, and Blake Griffin is making like $70 million over the next 2 years, maybe more than that or something. Like, it's an enormous amount of money. Blake Griffin's a really good player. I think you win the trade if you like trade for him, right? If this turned into somehow to a sign and trade, nothing like that is being recorded, so I don't think it's even happening anyway. But if that were the case, you win. People would be like, yeah, Blake Griffin is excited, but Blake Griffin is kind of the opposite of Jerami Grant in that he does a lot of great things. Jerami Grant, this is why I thought he was a little overrated, is he doesn't do a whole lot of things, but he has certain skills that he's pretty elite at that just so happen to fit perfectly with what Jokic is good at and bad at and MPJ is good at and bad at. Blake Griffin, I think there's a little bit too much overlap there. I mean, I don't know that he brings that defensive versatility, that you needed out of a Jerami Grant. So you slide him in between Michael Porter and Nikola Jokic, and that's going to stop the Lakers. Like that's going to stop Kawhi Leonard and all this. What
Grant provides is rare, limited or not. It's rare, and whether you or not you want to call this an overpay, he just got $60 million for it, and Rocco just cost 2 firsts. So like guys that can do this or something close to it, there's not a ton of them. And Denver's best option at getting one was retaining Grant.
Well, that's the reason I was told that this Blake Griffin sign trade could be a possibility, is because Denver doesn't have a lot of money to work with here, guys. They have the mid-level exception because they would have been going so far over the cap to retain Jerami Grant. They can't do that if they're just signing a guy who wasn't on their team who they don't have bird rights for. So they've got to get creative. That's the thing. And I'm not sure where they turn, to be honest. JaMychal Green would be a nice piece, but I mean, he's not softening the blow.
Yeah, Mo Harkless is an interesting name. I mean, but this is where we start getting into the compromised players, right? Where we're not exactly excited. If Mo Harkless is a guy, oh my God, there's a car. I'm sitting here right off of Colfax, which is always nuts, and there's somebody driving the wrong direction on this one way here on New York. Yeah, it sounds like it's the Nuggets. Actually, it's the Nuggets in car form at the moment, driving the wrong direction. So here's the thing, guys. What is the mantra for the Denver Nuggets that we've talked about so long? We don't skip steps. The problem with that it appears to be that they're running into right now is building a team in the NBA, especially if you're a team like Denver, it's always a house of cards. So you can go by all of this, but if one piece falls out from you, now you get into this unfortunate spot that the Denver finds themselves in, which is like, yeah, they did things the slow way, the right way, the patient way. One piece falls out, and it's like all the stuff you build, you have to take a step back. So it's tough, man. I really don't know where they go from here. There are players that you can get. Let me take a step back. One thing I will say is, and I'm not trying to make an excuse for Denver. To me, this is a disaster. I called it catastrophic. Losing Jerami Grant is not the same as losing Jamal Murray, Michael Porter, Nikola Jokic. It's, to me, means that the Denver Nuggets just made it to the Western Conference Finals, and I worry that they are really in jeopardy of taking a step back for the first time in 6 years, right, in 6 seasons. Mm-hmm. A first chance where it looks very likely that maybe they won't be able to field the same team. But long term, I still feel like, okay, there's some pieces in place here. It's just, how do you salvage this free agency the best that you can? They just signed Campazzo. A weird signing to me, unless that signaled they had other plans, right? Then now you have a bunch of guards, a bunch of guys who want to play. Now you have to worry about, it's like you're trying to build this thing over here that's real complicated, and a fire bursts out in the kitchen. And now it's like, okay, we got to put out this fire before we can continue building this complex thing we had going on over here.
Yeah, and that's why, like, a Blake Griffin thing, I could see how a team that loses the piece like Jerami Grant would look at that and say, okay, this is how we need to rebound. We need to get his replacement in there. But
I said, had too much to drink because I'm at the bar. This is erroneous. I was in a meeting.
Erroneous.
Yeah, erroneous. It had half of it Nantucket. Chill.
which is like half of a beer to begin with.
Montucky, whatever they're called. Eric got it for me.
But I think a much better option than a Blake Griffin sign and trade would kind of just be eating it. Like, I wonder if you're the Nuggets, you just have to eat this and say, yeah, this is unfortunate. We didn't see this coming, but, we just have to make a move that's not going to kill us financially and just kind of move on and make the best of it. You're right, Adam. Jerami Grant was not like this all-star, all-world player that, the Nuggets are not going to be a playoff team now because they lost. He was integral to what they did last season. He was great. They probably don't get to the Western Conference Finals without him.
No way. No way.
You could move past this and not let this be like your ultimate downfall, right?
Well, it's not. It doesn't shut the championship window, right? I mean, but there's no doubt it is inarguable. You've taken a step back from last season, and last season was a Western Conference Finals run where, look, you lost in 5 games, but the Nuggets probably feel like they were competitive, so they were competing. That was a title run, and an integral part of that, like, who's the starting 3, who's the starting 4, who are the backups respectively, and who guards Kawhi next postseason. These are significant questions. These aren't nothing.
I like this one right here. Melo is a free agent, guys. That's how we're going to make up for this defensive versatility is with Melo. Yeah, this one's tough, man. I mean, I really don't know. I didn't see this happening. I really didn't. I just thought Denver, I thought the market was going to be somewhere in the 12 to 14 million range. I thought if it went over that to 16, 17, maybe even 18, Denver bites the bullet and brings them in. It sounds like the number went up to 20. It sounds like Denver was willing to pay $20 million, which is to me is a dangerous overpay. But
Agreed.
Denver was willing to do that to keep him, and it just had nothing to do with that. And that's the part of this that I think is so discouraging if you're a Denver Nuggets fan, is Jerami Grant sure seemed like he was – and Tim Connelly has talked about this so much. Culture fits, guys that want to be here. We don't want to bring in just anybody. It could be a great player, but we want guys that want to be here. And we all thought Jerami Grant was that guy. It just seemed like he was that guy, and it turns out he wasn't. And that's what makes this such a tough pill to swallow, in addition to him being so great. So let me throw this one at you, because right now we're talking about guys that can salvage this 2021 season that's about to start up here in a couple weeks. And I'm scratching my head for it. But if there is a silver lining that could come out of this, Michael Porter, we all wanted him to play a lot more minutes this last season. Well, now Denver needs him to be something even better than what we all thought we needed him to be sooner. He's got to grow up even faster. Then you look at maybe even a Bowl. Is he now – did Denver look at their roster and say, like, okay, we haven't seen anything from this guy. We know he can't really defend. We know he's going to have every problem that a rookie tends to have. Can you go into a season counting on Zeke Naji and Bol in your front court to replace that production? Does Paul Millsap now become like essential to coming back to the Denver roster? What do you think here, Vogt?
I mean, is there a choice? Like, yeah, Millsap, what's the backup plan at this point? Yes, now Millsap coming back is important. I think at one point that was something you would have taken on the right deal. You definitely don't want to overpay, but you need this depth. You need someone you can trust. And yeah, so yeah.
I think you've got to turn to bringing back Paul Millsap now, and also getting another guy like JaMychal Green. You've got to look. The Nuggets spent all summer last year looking for a guy like Jerami Grant who would be the perfect piece, and they sent away a first-round pick for him. And Jerami Grant was that perfect piece. There's really few other guys that can be that person that Jerami Grant was in the league, let alone available on a pretty slim free agent market right now. So, look, the Nuggets have to get creative. I think we could see some more fireworks tonight.
Bol may have just gone from a card up Denver's sleeve to an important part of how this thing goes in the immediate future.
It's pretty unprecedented, though, if that is the case, because we've never seen a team that was on the rise make it to the Western Conference Finals and then say, everything that got us here, now we are putting even all of our faith into these young players. I can't think of a scenario where that has happened, where a team is like, in order for us to keep this climbing, we have to rely this heavily on such unproven talent. I mean, Bol's unproven. So it's basically, let's be honest, we saw him inside the bubble for a few minutes here. He's basically had a good summer league. That's like the equivalent of it. So I don't know. Is there anything else you guys think we need to touch on here? I just wanted to. Look, the community on Twitter. We were seeing you guys. We were hearing you. I figured we needed to hop on here as a press conference and just kind of reflect the emotion and everything that Nuggets Nation is feeling. This has been a slow, steady process for 5 years. It's been incredibly optimistic, I think, and this is maybe the most concerning moment. By no means, look, when I say catastrophic, I really mean for this upcoming season and for the direction Denver was headed.
This offseason.
They still have Murray. They still have Jokic. They still have Michael Porter. They still have like a lot of pieces to continue to build off of this, but it's just so hard to see them not taking a step back in this moment. That's the only thing about it.
I mean, look, when the offseason started, taking things like freak workout injuries and all that aside, what was the single thing you were hoping would not happen? Detroit offers Grant 360.
Right.
And
Well, I thought it was going to be the Knicks. Yeah, I mean, we looked at Detroit, Atlanta, but I was like, the Knicks are the team that could just get really, really crazy. And I do. And look, to be honest with you, I don't understand the Pistons scenario. But this is the thing: is it doesn't have to make sense for it to ruin you. And that's kind of how I feel here. This is a move I don't understand. Do we have any comments in Harris? I see you have something else, but before you get to it, if you're in the comment section, throw us out a new question. We'll answer them. Whatever questions you guys have, we'll try to answer them as best we can.
The last thing I've got is, if you think about this from the Nuggets perspective, man, this has got to be debilitating. Like, you trade for this guy. You show him throughout the entire season how much you wanted him here in Denver. You project that he's going to be a long-term piece and you're going to pay him for a while. You get to the Western Conference Finals with this guy when he is your third most important player and he's playing a huge role. Everything seems to be lining up perfectly for you. And then to just get stunned like this at the bell, that's got to hurt. That's really got to hurt. The other thing I'll say is, I wouldn't be surprised if Gary Harris is on the move at some point.
Wow.
For Denver to get some more pieces to kind of open up the guard rotation there. I would not be surprised if Gary Harris is on the move.
We've talked about it for a couple of years now, right? And he's been on the block every season, it seems like. So after that Compazzo signing the RJ pick, I mean, those guys aren't plugged like – RJ isn't play right away, but there's some writing on the wall, right? I mean, doesn't come out of left field.
And Robert Covington would have been a guy that, you'd probably look at this moment and say, okay, he becomes the replacement. Like, that's a guy that can replace Jerami Grant. Let's get him. But, he just got moved a few days ago to Portland nonetheless. So, but
that's your point, Adam, right? Like maybe, and I don't know how this works, but maybe an organization has an idea that even if they offered Grant, if they matched his top end deal, he wouldn't be coming back. Maybe your offseason's about getting Rocco, and that's priority number one. So it's a little very unfair for me to sit here in this chair and say that's what they should have done. But at the end of the day, this seems like something you've got to know, especially when, to your point, the last few years have been about building that culture that we want to be here. Let's get this done together thing. It didn't bear fruit this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Torrey Craig maybe more likely. Paul Millsap now more likely to return to Denver. I mean, those are guys that in theory you can plug in right there. And then to your point, when maybe Denver, it's a late night for them as they explore a lot of trade scenarios maybe they weren't anticipating because they were anticipating having a guy there in Jerami Grant. So it's tough. It is catastrophic in that Denver had one job to do this offseason. Like, job number one, if you put all the priorities on there, it was like Jerami Grant, make sure he's back, make sure we lock that down. And that one's out the window. It's not catastrophic, like I said. Jokic's still here, Murray's still here, but I don't. One thing I love is everybody in here in the comments calling for Juancho be the replacement.
I mean, one of the real bummers about this too. Like, let's look around, not to be callous and cold, just realistic. Clay goes down in Golden State. They don't make that big trade. That's one of the teams you were worried about. The Lakers have made some interesting moves. I think good basketball moves in a vacuum. But let's be honest, if you're Denver, they lose Dwight, JaVale, add Montrezl Harrell. You're thinking, is that really worse for Denver's matchup? The Clippers have made mostly lateral moves thus far. Until about, an hour ago, this was shaping up to be a very, very good night for Denver. It's now the worst case scenario for this offseason. And you don't need to sugarcoat that. That's an L.
Right.
Just to drive the knife deeper into our chest, Justin Holiday back to the Pacers.
Oh, no. Yeah, because he would have been a guy that, he's a little – I don't know if he's the perfect replacement, but he would have been intriguing. So another guy off the table. Wow. Denver going to have some cap space? I mean, they've got now.
They
15
don't
million.
though. They have a 9.3 mid-level exception, really, because like they were going over the cap to sign Jerami Grant because he was their own guy, right?
Right, because they were. You're right, because he was there. He was already there. Tough, man. No cap space. No. Oh, this is a really
It's tough. But Vogt brought up the Robert Covington thing before, and now looking back on it, it's like, oh, why did Denver think about doing something like that? Because they thought they had Jerami Grant done. I really feel like they really believed they were in the driver's seat for Jerami Grant, and I've got to think this really just took them by complete surprise. I really do.
But look, let's be honest. Whether this is a criticism or not, it's an observation. That's the second thing from the Drew deal to this. It's the second thing where it's like, well, they thought they had it and they didn't, and they were very, very surprised. So they'll have to get creative. This front office has earned the benefit of the doubt, but again, like losing one of your starters after a Western Conference Finals run is not a small thing.
Vlatko, guys, Vlatko. There you go. All right. Well, we might hop on again. Maybe there's another emergency press conference. Like I said, I wasn't even planning on doing this tonight, but I was at the bar. I figured this is a horrible turn of events, so we could hop on and be with the crowd today.
Let's commiserate together.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much. We'll see you later.